Kaustubha Das here with the big announcement for Wisdom of the Sages listeners. This August will be Ashram Month at the Super Soul Farm. Simple ashram living, rising early, morning kirtan, yoga and pranayama, healthy vegan and vegetarian meals, farm seva and being immersed in nature, and then gathering in the evenings for kirtan and readings. Plus, each week we'll have a lead presenter teaching a different facet of the philosophy and lifestyle of Bhakti-yoga. Week number 1 will be the exceptional Bhakti Lata teaching a course called The Beauty of Bhakti, bringing the culture of love and devotion into our lives. Week number 2 is my brother from another mother, Raghunath, teaching Falling in Love with Divinity, the Bhakti-yogi's method for opening the heart. And week number 3 is myself with a course called Following the Path, examining the history and teachings of Bhakti-yoga. You can come for 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the pricing is by donation. For more dates and information, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. Peace.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful San Jose, Costa Rica, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Costa Rica. How are you?
How am I?
How are you?
I'm feeling better.
Good. Yo, that's right. He's. I mean, we've talked so much. I know you're fine, but Kaustubha went down.
I went down.
He went down
with COVID.
Yeah,
you can say it.
Yeah,
I'm not ashamed.
Not ashamed, you said?
Yeah. It seemed like you didn't want to mention it or something like that.
No, I mentioned it to everyone.
Okay.
Tell everyone you had COVID.
Anyway.
Yeah, we changed though. Super spreader. We say be super spreaders of the holy name. That's our new.
I took note that was the title of the show that you did.
That?
Yeah, you made that connection between
super spreader? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
And speaking of writhing in pain, me and Mara are down here we are on, what do we call it again?
Dental tourism.
Medical tourism. We are not here enjoying a yoga retreat center or surfing the playas at the surfing the Ojas and the playas. We are getting our mouths worked on. And I will say, it's like the nicest dentist office I've ever been to in the world. I've been to a lot of dentists.
Even the view from the dentist office is
my God. And they're high tech, super high tech. It's not like you're
that that balloon, stretch it out in your mouth.
No, man. This is so past this. These guys are like working in the future. It's like I'm on the Starship Enterprise. These guys are so futuristic. I've got so many problems with my teeth, and it's pennies on the dollar down here. It's amazing.
Good.
So that's what we're doing. Just doing nothing. But you know what we do? We do yoga every morning. We read every morning. We decided to get a Sanskrit tutor. What do you think about that?
In Costa Rica?
No.
Online.
italki.com, where you can get a language tutor for super cheap.
So you've already started this?
Well, we started Nityananda's course.
Yeah, that's where I would go. I'd go that direction.
Well, we're going that direction, but now we decided, why not get a tutor? I've got a tutor for like $6 an hour.
All right.
I'm like a bargain hunter, aren't I?
Clipping coupons.
I'm clipping coupons.
Have you taken a class for them?
No, tonight's our first class.
All right.
Also going to the fruit market, going Japa walks to the fruit market. There's a great central market, Mercado Central in Costa Rica, in San Jose. Mm-hmm. You get the best fruit, man. Just been eating fruit nonstop.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So that's what's going on.
And
happy Father's Day to the fathers out there.
Father's Day. Yeah.
I got the sweetest message from my daughter.
Oh.
It was the sweetest. I really needed to wake up. I really needed to wake up and see that message today. It was very, very.
What did she say? You're the best
I don't know if she would want me to read it,
world.
but she said something like, "You're my father, my mentor, my friend." It was so beautiful. It was very beautiful. It was
my father, my mentor, my friend.
Huh?
You're my father, my mentor, my friend. Someday I want to write a book about you called My Father, My Mentor,
My father,
Friend.
my mentor, my friend. No, it was sweet. I'm waiting for those other kids to send me a text. Come
Now,
on.
how do you say that in Sanskrit? My father, my mentor, my friend.
Mira pita, mira guru, mira bandhu.
There you go.
Bad. It's up there.
Pretty good.
Is Mira Sanskrit or is that
I think
Hindi?
it's Hindi.
Yeah, not sure if that worked.
Maybe it's
Maybe it's a
mom, maybe.
Yeah, mom.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be correcting you for the next few months on everything.
We'll see if I actually was fully confident that you're going to pull this off. I might fear that you're gonna have to take a few more steps forward before I begin to feel that kind
Hey,
of
man,
pressure.
I registered for the class. Give me that.
Okay, yeah, you got that. Actually, today's my last Oxford. I'm getting kicked out of Oxford after today, brother.
You're getting kicked
Yeah.
Ouch.
Look who's the scholar now.
Yes.
Well, I suppose that makes me an Oxford
How about
graduate.
it?
That makes me an Oxford graduate, I think.
Yeah. Are they graduating you or are they holding you back?
No, I don't know. You'll have to ask them. Do we have announcements today, Mara?
Yeah,
It's
we
an important
have
one, right?
Yep, we have a Bhakti Recovery Group meeting today at 9:30.
Okay.
And then tomorrow there's an asana class with Zeb at 4 p.m. for our Patreon members.
We call him Yogi Raj.
Yogi Raj
Yogi
from
Raj.
Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
At 4 p.m. tomorrow for our Patreon members. And then we're changing the show time this week to 8 a.m. Eastern time.
8 a.m. New York
Yes.
time because we're on a 2 hours before. And you know what I'm really realizing is
It's hard to wake up.
I
early.
need to contact Dr. Sleep more. I
See.
need Dr. Rest to come. For the first time in the history of my life, I need rest. Just because I think with a lot of shifting going on in my life, I've been really anxious. I'm not used.
It's
not used
almost.
to that.
I wonder why no one ever told you this before, Raghunath. I wonder
And
why.
everyone always tells me about rest, and I'm always good. I
people
don't
that
need a lot
care
of
about
rest.
you.
I don't need a lot of rest.
Apparently
but
you
the
do.
other day, I was very wound up, incredibly wound up,
Yeah.
and I slept. I kid you not, for the second time in a week,
Yeah.
11 hours.
Whew.
I
Like
never
straight?
sleep like that.
Straight to-
11 hours straight, my friend.
Wow, that's it. Yeah, you need it, Bubba.
I need it. So I was gonna be like, you know what? I'm just gonna get up at 4 o'clock and I'm gonna do the show. No, I'm not. I'm gonna take care of me. I'm gonna put the oxygen mask on me first
Little
before I put it on
self-love.
Richard O and Jimmy James and Jeffrey Ackler.
Okay. A little self-love there, Raghunath?
It's called self-love Ragu. That's new. There's self-care
Okay.
Ragu.
Self-care, Raghunath. All right. Good.
There's also spaces available still for our Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Italy in July. That's like a month away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go to wisdomofthesages.com.
And then 4th of July weekend. That's going to be a
4th of
happening
July
thing.
weekend. We got working on some special guests, Kaustubha. I didn't even tell you.
Oh, you told me to work on one. Is that the one you're
No, I'm
talking
working on one. I'm working on
about?
one.
You're going to tell me who that might be before,
No, I'm not telling you.
before they show
Surprise! It's
Harley.
Harley Flanagan.
That would be
great.
fun,
We should
yeah.
get Harley Flanagan as our special guest.
We could do that. I think he's on tour. All right, let's get
Romantic.
into it, right? It's Q&A day. It's not
Yeah.
just...
By the way,
Raghunath.
Raghunath Swami went to go visit Gopal Chandra yesterday.
I know, and that was so beautiful. I talked to him afterward. It was
You talked to Gopal or Maharaj?
Maharaj.
Uh-huh. They sent me text pictures.
I
Ah, it was
saw
beautiful.
that. Absolutely beautiful.
And once again, Gopal Chandra is our dear friend, student, friend, now teacher, who's leaving his body. He's like getting ready to leave his body and he's in full preparation. And it's just proving to me again how
Yes.
you add Krishna consciousness to anything that materially seems completely horrid.
Mm.
And it's becoming divine. Like everybody's being affected by his embracing Krishna.
Yeah.
And his parents are being affected. I'm being affected. All of his friends from high school are coming to see him.
All our students that we brought over there, all the
Oh.
people from the retreat that came over.
Oh yeah, the whole retreat there with Satyananda Maharaj. We're all being affected, and it's you put Krishna as in the center, And there's a ripple effect of auspiciousness that happens,
Ah.
even in things that materially seem like the most tragic. There is no tragedy for a spiritualist. There is no tragedy. You can come down to the level of the material life. Of course, hey, material life, the whole damn thing is tragic. All you got to do is look a little past the veil. The whole damn thing is tragic. Good morning.
That Maharaj Raghunath Swami did that yesterday. After, he traveled all the way upstate, drove for 3 hours to go visit Gopal Chandra. But in the morning, early in the morning, he was, you know who he was on the phone with?
Who?
He was, Vishvarupa. Now, Vishvarupa Prabhu
Vishvarupa from Mumbai?
From Mumbai. So he's one of the main leaders, like, one of like the top, I think, like, some of Raghunath Swami's earliest disciples in Mumbai, they were all, they met when they were all in medical school. And then a group of them came, got together to found the Bhakti-yogi Hospital, which is just the most amazing hospital in Mumbai with this deep spiritual ethic to it.
If you ever get sick, go to Mumbai.
Yeah. And so, but, and if you read in Raghunath Swami's book, New York Times bestseller, throw that in there, but the Journey Within, he speaks about Vishvarupa Prabhu and his wife and their daughter, who was born with I think it was a type of lymphoma or something, really tragic.
What's lymphoma? The cancer?
It's a type of cancer. Honestly, I shouldn't even get into the details because I'm not sure. But it was, in other words, from birth, it was a very serious disease from birth.
Okay.
So as soon as she was born, they realized she had this horrible disease. It meant more or less that her entire life she would just need constant care. And that happens. It's obviously for parents, it's so difficult, and for the child, it's a very difficult life, and it seems like such a horrible tragedy. And you can read about the advice that he shared with them there, and their example. So now, 20 years later, that girl passed away yesterday.
Wow.
A very special soul. I think they named her Radha, if I remember correctly.
And she just died yesterday.
And Maharaj was on the phone with her on her deathbed, singing to her.
Oh my!
In the morning, I just and when I spoke to Maharaj yesterday, he was just saying, when we think of saints and we think of great spiritual examples, we think of these sannyasis and huge figures or these renunciates or different things. Maharaj is just glorifying this couple, right? This married couple who just like sacrificed their life to care for their daughter and give her a deeply spiritual. I think it may have been surprising that she lived this long, but they just knew that her life is going to be short. It's going to be difficult, painful, but we're going to invest all of the spirituality in her life that we can. That became their mission, and they dedicated themselves entirely selflessly to it, And Raghunath Swami was just glorifying them to me yesterday. I'm going to go back and read that chapter today just to.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Think about
that's
that.
a good idea, Kaustubha. Imagine the amount of self-sacrifice. I can't even imagine.
It's real selflessness. Right?
It's real selflessness, and I tell you, it can. I'm sure it breaks you, and I'm sure it can really purify. When you step out and look at that from with a spiritual lens, you could see like sometimes these children who go through this, it just might be just one more little piece of karma to burn off. Is it inappropriate for me to speculate about this? But one more little piece of karma to burn off,
possibly, yeah,
before you become liberated. In reading this story, it's so nice. Me and Gopal Chandra, we're reading the story of Judd Bart, and it's such an incredible story of. We know the story. He was a great king, almost reached perfection, fell in love with the little baby deer before he reached perfection, had to take birth again as a deer, but a deer fully conscious was like, what did I do? What was I thinking? What was I thinking? Now I got to get really focused, even though it was a deer in full consciousness. So he only drank Ganga water and he only ate the remnants of the sadhus. And so in his next life, he born in a very, very pious family, and a great sage like Brahminical father and mother, he started realizing, like, I'm not dealing with this world anymore. I'm just going to play dumb. So he played the role of like a village idiot. And he just didn't want to deal with this world anymore. And for most people, even people like religious people, they would be like, oh, who's this village idiot? Who's this fool? Who is this? And they didn't understand, like, he was an incredibly realized being. Even King Raghunath had no clue who he was dealing with. He was just, who's this big lunkhead? You can carry my palanquin. You look like big and strong. And he played totally dumb and mute. So it's, we go through the world and we just we try to like weigh people out. We try to figure them out. We have no idea who we're standing face to face with.
Just got to respect every living entity.
You got to respect. You got to give everybody some dignity, some love, some care, and some deep respect. First of all, you got nothing to lose by playing that hand, But second of all, you don't know who's right in front of you that has the littlest amount of karma to burn off before they just go back to the spiritual realm.
That's right. Thank you for sharing that. We got to get into, because we got some really important questions, and I got to cut out,
Yes, so do we.
Oxford studies.
Yes, so do we. I've got mangoes to purchase.
Yes, I'm going to say.
The market.
Buy some
Thank
more
you.
fruit. All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
So we have two questions today. I'm not sure if we'll get to both of them, but they're very similar. There's a very similar theme in them. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm going to read the first one to you, and we can start talking at a certain point. Hopefully, we'll have time to get into the second one, which again it's almost the same question. It's a slightly different angle, but almost the same kind of question. All right.
Yep.
All right. So this is a question coming from Liz via email, and she wrote a kind of long introduction. I trimmed it down a bit so that we can get past that, but I'll start here where she says, it seems very clear, because she was giving different examples from scriptures. So she said, it seems very clear in scriptures that Krishna can come to us in many different forms and in many different ways. Yes? You with us so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
However, now this is her experience in dealing with in her Bhakti-yoga community, right?
Okay.
She says, however, when speaking to devotees in my circle, I feel I am only taken seriously if I quote Prabhupada or another eminent devotee, right? Like, all right.
Yeah,
So she goes,
I get that.
She says, if I quote anyone else, any other philosopher, either from Sanatana Dharma, from like our own,
right,
spiritual
some
traditions
other
and spiritual texts and so on.
Indian path,
Yeah.
Vedic
Yeah.
path, yeah.
Either from Sanatana Dharma or otherwise, any other saint or religion, or if I say, my intuition tells me, quote unquote, right? My intuition.
Devotees will jump all over you for that one.
Don't you go there.
Don't you give me that intuition thing.
She says, if I say my own, my intuition tells me.
The super soul in my heart inspired me to say this.
Yes. I'm either openly challenged with a yes, but Prabhupada said, or the conversation.
That's how you talk to me.
Well, we're going to get there. Maybe she's got really good friends. So she says, either I'm openly challenged with yes, but Prabhupada said, or the conversation is immediately shut down. Whew, I wonder how they do that. Shut it.
I know exactly how they do it. Because you always look at me and go, speculation.
Okay. So over the years, I have learned to, quote unquote, speak the language that makes people comfortable. But in doing so, I feel like I am shrinking myself to fit into a mold of what is expected of me.
Yeah, I get that.
Here comes the questions. Why is there this tendency to put Krishna in a box where he can only speak through Prabhupada or his devotees? Isn't that narrowing an infinite, all-powerful God right down? First question. The next question, why can't we get an understanding of God and how to depend on him through other authors and other religions? Isn't it healthy to be able to accept the universality in the messages? Good question.
Good question.
And then she goes on. And what about balancing looking to seniors for guidance with tapping into our own intuition? Can we balance those things out?
Yeah, yeah.
If I ask these questions directly, I get a yes, of course we can.
Yes.
But it's clear in conversations that they feel wary with the conversation heading in that way, unless I put it in what I call, quote unquote, ISKCON language.
ISKCON speak. I
Okay.
get it.
I am also given less responsibility to speak because of it. Okay, maybe there are opportunities to speak publicly. People are saying, "Oh, you never know what Liz is going to come up."
Don't let him speak. It's a girl or a guy?
Liz, yeah, Liz.
Don't let her speak. Yeah, God knows what woo is going to come out of her mouth.
Okay, so this is limited to her speaking opportunities.
Okay.
I get quite worried and can only see my own side in this. Okay, this is interesting. I get quite worried and I can only see my own side in this. Please help me see the other side.
Oh, I like this.
Okay. Please help me see the other side so that I can relate to my circle more. Am I not respecting Prabhupada and his role in the world enough? Am I confusing myself by reading different authors from time to time? Or what else is happening that causes people to feel challenged? Oh, all right. That's a great question.
I like that one.
Yeah.
A couple things pop up immediately.
Okay. Well, do you want to get started?
I'll take a couple pokes at it. There's a
away?
lot there.
Okay.
You know, by the way, great question. And there's a balance there. One thing is I find like a 12-step, you know, like a person who's maybe struggling with alcohol addiction or any addiction, when they come to a 12-step meeting, there's certain very rigid parameters. You stop drinking. That's one of the parameters. You know what I mean? You can't hold offenses towards other people. You have to take these moral inventories. You make rules with your sponsor. You don't go into bars anymore. You're very, very strict with parameters in your behavior. Why? Because they're real big trigger points. So I can see how some people, especially when they get into bhakti, they need to be very, very rigid. They need to be very, very black and white with the rules of bhakti. Just like you would tell a child, never cross there's a mailbox across the road. I don't want you ever to get the mail. Never get the mail unless you're with mom or dad. Now that is true in a time, place, and circumstance. Mm-hmm. But it's not true all the time. Eventually the kid will become 11 or 14 and they don't need mom to cross the road to get the mail. But in the beginning stages of a child's life, you have to be very, very cut and dry with what is permissible and what is forbidden. So sometimes we get into bhakti and we ride these rules because the rules assist us with our own loose parameters. And I think as a person matures, they can see how actually other things do fit in here in the same way as a 12-step person who's 20 years sober can go into a bar and just not drink. Whereas in the early stages, they just don't go to bars. So that's one thing. I think there is a rigidity that's important to have for your own protection. At the same time,
what's the danger?
What's that?
What's the danger?
What's the danger of them not having that rigidity?
Yeah. What is the rigidity protecting them from?
It protects them from falling into their own bad habits.
No, I'm not talking about it in 12-step. I'm talking about in relation to what we're talking about here.
In relationship to bhakti, it's the same thing. Sometimes people need almost a very strict doctrine so they can follow word by word to help them, assist them moving forward on their path. And I think it's very useful for a certain.
But what's the danger?
That can be because it could end up sort of fanatical and you could miss the forest through the trees.
In other words, she's saying
the danger is exactly what she feels excluded. She feels that she doesn't feel understood.
No. In other words, you're saying that Liz, what your friends are doing, part of what may help you understand this is that just like in a 12-step program, they have very strict rules. So your friends are kind of living in or imposing or, within a strict set of rules.
that they may need.
that protect you from something. What are they protecting them from?
What are they protecting them? Following principles or values of the the philosophy. Could be like anything, the 4 regulative principles or
No. But I'm saying, what's the danger that these principles are protecting them from? In other words, why can't she just read any books or talk about anything? Why is there such an aversion to that? There must be some danger there.
Your danger on the other side for her. I thought you meant danger on the side for them. Danger on the side for her. Now on her side, there's a chance that you don't take it seriously enough and you become very splayed in your understanding of spirituality. And we're part of a tradition that teaches the main thing. And this is another point I wanted to make.
Okay.
Let's see if it can fit into the same point here. Especially with India, when which was a culture, a sort of a downtrodden culture. It was abused culture. It was imperialized, colonized culture by the British, by the Mughals, by the Afghans, beat down, made to feel less than, made to feel like the husky kid running behind, can't catch up, backwards, tribal.
Okay, we get it. Okay.
You get it. Okay, you get it. Witch doctors, and really like the British outlawed Ayurvedic medicine. And so they've and that stigma stayed with them till today. And there's a big part of Indians who are like, no, we're not going to try to fit in with you. Please. It's just sort of like this. It's the ugly duckling theory. Like, I'm so ugly. Please accept me. Please let me in your gang. Please accept me. But India is this wealth of knowledge. It's this incredible ocean of knowledge. And instead of begging to be accepted into the cool clique that's riddled with problems, the Western culture, there's another, you can flip this whole thing around. Instead of how can we fit our philosophy into Christianity, into Greco-Roman, literature and arts, etc. Here's a better one. How does all your stuff fit into the Vedic paradigm? Right? How does Thomas Merton, how can we fit into Thomas Merton and Henry David Thoreau? And, right? No. How do they fit into the Vedic paradigm? Why are they the heroes? Prabhupada said this great, and I can't remember, it's in the 7th chapter purport. He said, it's like, if this is the absolute truth, well, why is it that great Western philosophers, the quote I'm talking about, why aren't they, following, why aren't they accepting Krishna as absolute truth? Why aren't they, following these principles? Why aren't these great philosophers? And he says, because they're actually not great philosophers, thinkers, etc. It's because they're completely speculating. And for some reason, our culture is bolstering these people up to these very high positions as leaders, as great thinkers, as great philosophers. It's a tradition that's already established. It's the gold standard for spiritual evolution. So it's sort of flipping it. And so one idea, going back to the question, is why are sometimes maybe these devotees who appear a little strict is because they're accepting that this is the gold standard and these things can fit within this reservoir, but not the other way around. I think there's a broad way to understand all those other facets of spiritual paths, but it's got to fit within the bigger standard, the gold standard of spiritual truth, which is the Vedic paradigm. Okay. Microphone drop. Thank you.
Well, to me, you mentioned speculation, right? You used the word speculation, and
because you use it. Yes.
I didn't make it up. But to me, this is a question of epistemology, right? Like, how do we understand what's true? Okay. To me, that this is what you see. There's a tension that Liz is speaking about here. It's a very real tension. She's feeling it, and you know, I get the impression, you see, I don't know Liz and I don't know Liz's friends. And so I don't know how they're applying that tension, you know, like just like in a car, there's certain tensions, right? Like there's got to be a certain tension in the
The clutch and the
wheel.
gas.
Yeah, with the clutch and the, okay.
Clutch and the gas.
Well, I never drove in sticks, so I don't know so much about that. But yeah, I suppose there, and you know, there's got to be a certain tension in the steering and in the suspension and so on. If the tension in the suspension is too tight, right, it's going to be a rocky. It's going to be a very uncomfortable ride. If it's too loose, then it's like you're all bouncy and everything, you know. So it's like it's got to be right. It's not that there's a problem, that it's not that the tension has to be eliminated, but it has to be set well, you know.
I like where you're going with this analogy, Prabhu.
Like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
So the tension that she's speaking about, the tension between, you see, because there's truth in both ends. I want to talk about Vedic epistemology, right? Like, in other words, in this tradition that we follow, in Vedanta, right?
Yeah.
How do we know what's true? That's one side of the tension. And the other side of the tension is that there's truth in so many spiritual traditions. It should be recognized and appreciated, right? So there's a tension between, let me stick to this strict, as you're calling it, like a gold standard form of epistemology. Let me stick to sources where I know that the knowledge is valid, rather than speculate. Or hey, you know, grow up a little bit. Can't you see that there's truth everywhere and it should be appreciated and respected, and it can be inspiring and it can also be transforming? What are you, like a little child that, you know, only my thing is right and nobody? So there's the tension between the two. Right?
So by the way, the definition of epistemology is the investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So in a simpler way, we could just say, what's my source of knowledge, of truth? Right.
Yeah.
And so so Liz is feeling that tension. She's like, I'm kind of on the one end of this. Everyone's coming from the other end of this. It's not making for a very smooth kind of relationships here. And Liz in a really sincere way saying, can you help me understand the other side a little bit better? So let's talk about that side first. Okay. Let's talk about, like, within the Vedic culture, let's say within Vedanta, within this wisdom tradition of ancient India that goes back many centuries. How did they understand epistemology, right? Particularly in terms of spirituality, right? That which lies beyond the purview of our senses. How do we understand what's true or what's not? Now, there's an analogy that's used sometimes in this. Can you think of the analogy I'm thinking of? Having to do with a child.
Oh, child, and the child wants the moon.
No, not that one.
Not that one. That's a good one.
Another child one. That is a great one.
Child,
child and the
cow
mother.
and the mirage.
The child wants to know who their father is.
Oh, yeah. Child wants to know who the father is. Got to ask him. The child's not going to know. You got to ask the mother.
It's beyond the purview. Like, let's say the father's not around the home, you know, obviously.
Right.
So who's my father? Now, the child can speculate about it. Well, let me think. I don't know. You know, what kind of man would my mother be interested? You know, whatever. You know, or the child could conduct a survey. You know, could start asking every man in the village. You know, are you my father? Are you my father?
Right. I got a better solution for the kid.
Better solution.
Ask the mother.
Ask the mother. Now the mother will know, right? The mother. Hopefully the mother knows.
Hopefully the mother should know.
Okay, but the mother will.
Hare Krishna.
Within the
Krishna, that one.
Within particularly within that Vedic kind of, you know,
yes,
paradigm, you know, the mother would know, and so the mother will know for sure, right? Like the mother, I can go to a source that knows, that's beyond the purview of my own speculation, that's beyond the purview of my own senses, and I can just simply hear from that source that knows, and as long as that source is valid, then I'm going to get proper information. There'll be a transferal of knowledge, flawlessly. Right, I'll know who my father is. So it's said that the Vedas are the mother, right? That these ancient texts are the mother, that they know, that, you know, I could speculate about the spiritual realm. I could speculate about God. I could speculate about my own spiritual nature. And so I could speculate about these things that are beyond the purview of my senses. So it's said that in Vedic epistemology, they break it down into like 3 different categories of obtaining knowledge, right?
Mm.
One is what we perceive through our senses empirically. One is what we can mentally, speculate, what we can construe, through our speculation. And the third is from hearing from another source. And there'll always be an analysis of these 3 different forms of gaining knowledge. And then it'll break down the faults, particularly in the first 2, right? Like our senses are not only faulty commonly,
Right.
but they're also very limited. Very limited.
Are we going to get into the Sanskrit here?
If you'd like to. Yeah.
Maybe we should just tell the Sanskrit. I think it's good.
Well, hey, that's your thing now, man. Let's hear it.
All right. What's the first one again? What's the first one again?
So, for direct perception.
Pratyaksha.
Pratyaksha.
That means you perceive it. I see Kaustubha. He's got a little beard there. He's got a little turtleneck there.
It's not a turtleneck. You see already.
See already. Senses are faulty.
It's just a T-shirt I'm wearing here.
Just a T-shirt. Okay. So Pratyaksha, what you see, and this is like, isn't it weird? The Missouri. Who's from Missouri here?
The
Show Me state. Mm-hmm. It's like the Pratyaksha state. If I don't see it, right? If I don't see it, I don't believe it. Well, you're wrong, because Pratyaksha is partially true, but it's not perfect.
Limited.
It's not perfect. For example,
and it's very limited.
The table seems perfect, or seems solid rather, but subatomic particles are flying through this table right now. So with my Pratyaksha, I can't actually see reality, but I see one vantage point of reality.
And even that you may get right or wrong. Sometimes you screw it up. Like you just did with the turtle.
So the epistemologist yogis would say it's partial truth.
Or in other words, it has the ability to understand truth to a certain degree, but it's very limited and sometimes faulty. Right.
The next way is
through Sanskrit.
Pramanas.
Well, they're all different pramanas.
Yeah. It's Krishna now.
You got it. Well, there's a
inference.
word. There's a word for
What's the word?
Inference. There's a word for mind. The word for mind is
manas.
And then to follow the mind.
Oh, come on, Ronit. Ronit wrote it on the board. Just up me.
To follow the mind.
Anuman.
Yeah. So Anumana. I'm going to follow the path of my mind. In other words, logic.
Thank you, Ronit.
Yeah, inference. We can put things together in our own mind.
Right.
But it said.
Give an example.
Oh, I mean, there's a million different ways that you can kind of put things together.
Give a simple example.
Oh, I don't know. I assume that this morning you woke up and got a shower because that's normally what you do. But I don't know for sure if you did.
No. Here's one. Yeah. You smell gas. You hear a lawnmower. You smell cut grass. I think someone's cutting the grass outside.
Right.
What's going on? Someone's cutting the grass outside. You're in for it. It might not be true.
Right.
But it could be. Yeah. There's a chance it could be. It could be like a water pump is on and someone cut the grass yesterday.
And in certain realms, that will be more effective way of gaining knowledge. But when it comes to the spiritual realms, that's also going to be very limited. It's kind of, think of it like this. The virtual reality thing is all commonly really helpful, right? Imagine that you were born in a virtual reality. Like the moment that you're born, they just kind of plugged you right into the thing.
Get ready. It's happening.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised. So you're born, all of your experience in your life has come through the virtual reality. All that you've seen has been through those goggles and that computerized imagery.
Does the metaverse make you depressed?
Let's Raghunath, we're running out of time here. Let's stay on this, okay? So we got headphones and we got all of that, and everything that I perceived through this virtual programming. Okay. Now let's say someone enters into that programming and gives me an idea that there's a world beyond it. All right. Now, how am I going to understand it? It's beyond my senses. I can't see it. I can't touch it. Right. I can't touch that world because I'm entirely plugged into it. I can't see that world. I can speculate about that world, but still, what good is my speculation? It's so far beyond what I've experienced. But if someone who's living in that world entered into my virtuality and told me all about it, dude, you're living in a virtual, and this is what happens in the Matrix, right? Is that, hey, Neo, I'm going to tell you your situation right now. You're sitting in a test tube right now, and everything that you see around you is is a digital, computer program. But there is a world beyond that, and I can tell you all about it because I live in it. So I can directly tell you about what's beyond the realm of your senses. I can directly tell you about what's beyond the realm of your inference. Just hear from me, and I'll explain it all. And as long as that person's telling the truth, and as long as they know, then that transferal of knowledge will be effective. So what's happening in the Vedic epistemology is they're saying that there is a source. We're all living in a virtual reality, and there is such a source, and that source is the Vedic literature, right? That this is knowledge that's coming from the spiritual realm, that this is not ordinary, that this can tell you what's beyond your limited range.
This is called Shabda Brahman.
That's right.
Transcendental sound.
The transcendental sound, which
is amazing, huh?
Yeah, which is
maybe
recorded.
Ronan, put all three of those on the board, Ronan.
Okay, Shabda Brahman. So what's happening? The three things that we talked about, and there are common examples that they give for each one, to help explain it, more or less like we just did. This has been going down in Vedanta for centuries. People have been writing their commentaries on this, using this exact model, right? And that model, which great thinkers have been handed down for many, many centuries, Liz, it's playing out in your conversations. It's seeped into your world. Really, well, you've kind of come to that world, but it's that thought that it is exactly what's seeping into the conversations that you're having with these other devotees. So you asked, I get quite worried and can only see my own side of this. Please help me see the other side so that I can relate to my circle more. So what your friends are saying is, Liz, we love you. Hopefully they're saying it like this. I don't know exactly how they're saying it, but like you're bringing in a lot of information that we don't trust is necessarily as valid. Like we're all Vedantins here, right? We're all Bhakti-yogis. We all have faith in this one source of information. Let's relate on that level. And you're saying, well, I'm bringing in another source. And they're saying, well, you know what? You have faith in that source, but I don't necessarily have faith in that source of information.
Right. And a lot of times when you bring in these outside sources, you come across really intelligent people, or mystics, or, from the Rudolf Steiners, the Madame Blavatskys, there's people who are sort of like out there as like gurus of sorts, even what's his name? Leo Tolstoy. They're like gurus of sorts. And they're deep thinkers. And sometimes they are really, really on base, but there is no metric to see if they're actually off. And sometimes people do go off in that regard. And so what you're saying is now these guys are referring to this Shabda Brahman. That's going to be the final. That's going to be the gold standard. And I'm sorry, I cut you off here.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah. So they're saying that within our realm, when we discuss seriously here, we all share one source of knowledge that we have faith in, and it's a valid source, and it's a very broad source. It's not like it's very and one thing that Liz mentioned was it's also limiting my speaking opportunities. Well, that's because they're trying to create a realm. They're trying to create a circle. They're trying to create a space wherein people can hear from this source that they feel is valid. And you're bringing in a lot of other sources. Now here's where things get interesting. Now, if one is firmly rooted in hearing from that source and using that source as a metric, then they develop the ability to be able to see that same truth wherever it appears and engage with it and share it and so on. And so that's like a mature, a person that's a little bit more true. Where you began this conversation, Raghunath was saying, like a little kid, you can tell them, don't ever go get the mail, right? Don't ever cross the street and open up that mailbox. It's dangerous. But they grow up, they're able to go across the street and get the mail. It's an easy thing to do. And so, so similarly here, particularly until we're very firmly rooted in understanding these Vedic conceptions and the Vedic process of gaining knowledge, then there might be some, a greater need for narrowing down, the source. As one matures, one should be able to engage with these things gracefully, even being personally inspired and transformed by them. So that's the tension that's going on here. Now, I would have if I were in the middle of your circle, I would have my own opinion about, who's weighing in too heavily here, right? It's like I might be like,
Right.
hey guys, give Liz a break. Everything she said is true, and it's consistent with our philosophy. It's consistent with all that's coming down in the Vedic literatures. You guys are just fanatics here. Or I might say, Liz, you're bringing in all kind of crazy stuff, and you don't understand that this, you don't understand that like this stuff is inconsistent with our faith,
Right.
and that would be
It
my
really
opinion.
depends on who she is and who they are.
Yeah.
Because we do the same thing.
I was going to say, you and I play with this on the show in a humorous way.
We
right?
have that tension all the time. I'm talking about UFOs, mystics, levitation.
And I'm like, hold it, Rugger, let's bring it back.
The demigods, and,
Let's get back to
and
Bhagavatam.
trying to reel me in. But the point is, they both coexist, but they have to be seen. There has to be that proper tension, and we have to. I can't just like be cut free and then live in my tinfoil hat world of where anybody who says anything, they have to be right. There has to be some grounding in what we speak.
Okay. So now Liz mentioned, why is there this tendency to put Krishna in a box where he can only speak through Prabhupada or his devotees? Isn't that narrowing an infinite, all-powerful God right down? In a sense, you could say that, and it could play out that way in a sense, but if you're really trying to understand their position, then like you need to be able to articulate their position. And if you said, hey guys, why are you insisting to put Krishna in a box? They're going to say, we're not putting Krishna in a box. They're going to come back and say, that's not what we're doing at all.
Right.
But what we're saying is like, why, what they're saying is that we want to take care in where we find knowledge, because there's a lot of invalid knowledge out there. And so we want to make sure that we're hearing from a source that's valid. That's all. We're not trying to put Krishna in a box. We're trying to make sure that we're hearing from a source that's actually presenting truth.
What I was saying earlier too, and you get these, these great thinkers, philosophers, AKA speculators, they don't have a final source. They say it's either
It's usually anumana,
manifesting knowledge, self-manifesting knowledge. Sometimes they'll even say it comes from a previous life, or they'll say it's the problem. The problem when I see that, when I hear about like for example, I love Rudolf Steiner. A lot of the things that he wrote are like amazing. I find they fit very well into the Vedic perspective of life. But at the same time, I get weary because he's the guru. He's the final Shabda Brahman in his tradition. It's all coming from him. And so that's a problem, because there's so much room for anybody who's not really pure to throw in their own motive and therefore speculate and then therefore mislead. And when she said this thing about, well, what's wrong with my own intuition? Nothing's actually wrong with it. Everything's wonderful about your own intuition, the super soul speaking within. Everything's wonderful about that, except it may not necessarily always be your intuition. It might be mixed with your anxiety, or with your fear, or with your lust, or with your greed, or with your struggle for power, or with your arrogance. It may not always necessarily be intuition. So we always have to really check in with the so-called super soul within the heart. And that's why even within our container of Vedic understanding, if I say, hey, Kaustubha, I just had a dream last night that I am a guru. And I should be a guru. And I just didn't realize it. And now I'm the guru. And then I go to Kaustubha, and I go to, Paramananda, and I go to, Raghunath Swami, and they say, Raghunath, this was a nightmare. This was not a dream. You should not be a guru. Are you kidding?
Hello, I've been waiting for you, Kaustubha. What are you talking about? I see you every day.
Kaustubha, you are my son. So it's even if I said it's my deep intuition, it may just be my ego trip or my arrogance, or
because everybody's got an intuition, and they often are conflicting.
Yeah. So that's why in in our camp, so to speak, we approach people that respect and we say, here's what I think, here's my intuition, what do you think? And then Kaustubha say, you know what, you are a guru, you are meant to be a guru, you go be a guru. So whatever it may be. Then when you get a bunch of people who are telling you something, then you could say, okay, I was thinking that myself, but now it's confirmed. And when we hear, in our culture, we say, when the Vaishnavas start to speak like this, we accept it as coming from God.
But again, it's not, if we say what Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, like these three especially, right? Like in other words, it should be confirmed by the sadhus, by the the people and the Vaishnavas. It should be confirmed in scripture, right? It should be confirmed by Guru. So intuition isn't a bad thing, but intuition is not an infallible thing, right?
Right. It's got, we have to check. Yeah. We have to check that with Guru, with sadhus.
Yeah, and I liked where you came from, where you said, let's put it this way. And we're not going to get to the second question. Maybe we can save that for next week. It's a similar question, but this point relates to that, but it relates to what we're talking about right here too. Liz, that she feels something resonating in her with these other traditions, apparently, right?
Sure.
So
I get that.
Yeah. Now, but the question is, what's resonating? Because it may be that there's a common spiritual essence in what she's drawing from that's resonating with her. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But it may not be. It may also be like something external, something not so essential, some kind of, quote unquote, spiritual aesthetic, that she's resonating with, that anyone might resonate with. So, in other words, I might be hearing a message that's kind of like garbed in spirituality, right? Quote unquote spirituality, but that may not actually be truth. And sometimes the difference may be a little subtle too.
Yeah.
And so these questions, therefore there's this within Vedic tradition, you and I right now, we do a show every day that's based on a very ancient tradition that's been handed down for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we participate in that tradition by valuing the texts themselves and the great commentators on those texts as it's come down. That's how we engage with it, with a certain care, and hopefully we don't fail too miserably in this endeavor. With care, to not change that message, but to hand that message down, the exact same message, right? Maybe word it differently, but the same truth. That's a tradition. There's great care that has been handed down in that, and that's why we value this, what we call Guru Parampara, right? This handing down from guru to disciple, from guru to disciple, from teacher to student, from teacher to student. It's a really important part of the tradition. So your friends, they're stepping up and saying, hey, what you're talking about, you're not respecting how the tradition is followed. It sounds like that's what they're saying. Without the proper amount of care, you're drawing from other sources that may or may not be valid. And so they're pushing back a little against it and saying, hey, Liz, we got to think more about this. Again, you may be more in the right. They may be more in the right. Maybe you got a perfect tension here and you got to appreciate it. Don't try to eliminate the tension. And this is, because we're running out of time, this would be my final piece of advice. I would say my really first piece of advice is that, Liz, what you do is you master 4 books. Okay?
Tibet and Book of the Dead.
No.
What?
I'd say 4 books. Bhagavad Gita, especially that. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Nectar Devotion. But even if
Take your whole life.
What master? I mean, become like study and make them an integral part of your life. Even just Bhagavad Gita, really study that. If you start to really study Bhagavad Gita, and every time you bring in whatever other source that you're bringing in, such as
Tibet and Book of the Dead, Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
You're going to be saying, you know what? In the Gita, I found this, and in Jonathan Livingston Seagull, I found the same message here. Now your friends are going to be like, oh, hold it. Liz is like, she's got more substance now, right? And you ground yourself in these texts really firmly. Learn them. It takes time. It takes patience, right? It is a lifetime endeavor that we're doing. But but begin to ground until you're well grounded in those books, and you may be right now. I don't know. I'm not saying you're not, but I could say this: until you're well grounded in that knowledge, within Vaishnava circles, your speculation, your other sources will be taken far less seriously. But if you become very well grounded, then people are going to start to take your contributions more seriously. That's what I have to say. Raghunath, what do you have to? I got to cut out in a minute.
You got to cut out in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she's here because I feel this. I can really relate to her because I was like on a long spiritual journey and I had my hands in every different book in so many different traditions, but I felt like the Vedic, first of all, I felt mainly things were coming from Vedic culture anyway. Little ideas on mysticism, especially by Western teachers, European teachers. They were all going back to India.
I'm going to have to go. I'm sorry.
You're going to have to go? No, you're going to stay and listen to me. You're going to stay and listen.
You keep going.
I listen to you.
I'm sorry. I've got to go.
No. No. It's okay.
I want you to finish this answer. I want you to finish this. Please do. But I've got to go. Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful to spend time with you. I'll see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Raghunath, please finish this answer for Liz and everybody else.
That's the answer, everybody. That's the answer. And the 4 books Raghunath recommends is.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, okay, stop.
The Essene Gospel of Peace.
The Essene Gospel. I was going to say that. The Essene Gospel.
The autobiography of Aleister Crowley.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a very, very good one.
That's a very good one. I gotta go. I'm sorry, Raghunath.
Okay, no, I'm going to end it there too. I actually love your answer.
We're going to get next week. We'll go deeper into this because the next question is so similar.
Yeah. Hey, we got thanks everybody for joining us. We have a great guest next week. Not this Sunday. Today's Sunday. Next Sunday, we have Jeffrey Armstrong, Kapinja Rishi. You can ahead of time, you can listen to some of his classes. Just YouTube search Jeffrey Armstrong. Got so many nice classes out there on Vedic culture, on Sanskrit, etc. Looking forward to that. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Zoomers, we're doing it at 8 a.m. New York time. So if you're a Californian, this week is for you. And we're looking forward to seeing you Monday. Wish us well with me and Mara's teeth operations. I'm going in for like 5 hours tomorrow. They're digging in. And I might be a little sore for class on Tuesday. That's all you're getting. I'm going to cut out early because I have very, very important things today to do. I've got bananas and mangoes to pick out. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day.